Got the last of it.
And Rod Rosenstein, the United States Attorney for the District of Maryland,
One last one.
his emphasis on the black guerrilla gang. We don't talk about the white guerrilla gang in the person of the Fraternal Order Police.
Who is the white?
The white guerrilla gang in the person of the Fraternal Order Police.
Show 7 years ago is my bodyguard, Jimmy the Bodyguard. Remember him?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The Baltimore Spectator.
You bring Knuckles in the room.
Yeah. Jimmy, what's going on out there?
What's up, brother Jimmy?
Good. I just got online and I think I heard of Christopher Irvin is there.
Yes, sir. How are you, Jay?
This is excellent. I didn't know that he would be on the program, but Larry, I don't know if you realize that day at Mondawmin, he eventually was on the ground there with us as well.
You know what, Jimmy? I didn't know that. And the topic was for the day is what really happened at Battle Mondawmin Mall. And I was talking to Christopher.
We said a few things that led up to that. And incidentally, speaking of the rocks, let me just get this out the way at the top. I have lived in the city a long time, family near that area, go to that area a lot. Before and since, there is no trace of any rocks of that size available in the hundreds to be thrown. I have to make this clear. We have surveyed the area in detail. I have photographers with me. We walked up and down. All we saw were tiny pebbles. That day, mysteriously, there were lots of large throwable rocks and bricks and other objects, all exactly where the police pushed the
alley part.
They were pushing them across the street, across Ricetown Road, and miraculously, magically, an area that this isn't the country, this is the city. Suddenly, there were all these large throwable rocks in that area, Larry. So you asked what made the kids throw rocks. Well, what made the rocks suddenly appear?
Right. Okay. And what about, how come the kids wasn't let on the subway station to go home? Why did they stop the transit?
Because
it was orchestrated.
It was orchestrated. Yes. Dr. Andre Humphrey?
People saw a few thousand overnight from the raw footage I released. And those, I have to preface, those are just little snippets. It's copyright material. We're not putting them all out there for people to steal and not give credit and all that. You'll have to wait till the project is finished. But we put enough to just to showcase what you saw and what you saw with me, Larry, because you were there the whole time. We got there first before everyone else. Is a whole bunch of students masked up walking, trying to get to the transit station, and their paths were literally blocked by riot cops. Some people say, oh, the gear wasn't put on until after the rock throwing. Not true. You saw it.
It was gearing up before the rocks were thrown.
And furthermore, you had the SWAT teams and others showing up with automatic weapons pointed outwards, high ready position inside the station. So what student is going to walk up to the transit station with armed men in there or get to a bus or the subway with the gates were pulled and everything was locked? This whole thing was carefully orchestrated, and you know what? We have the proof. We're going to show that a lot of people could have already put the pieces together and can see that for themselves. There's still those in denial, and the fact of the matter is I'm now learning a lot of the police officers, they didn't even realize the role they played in this orchestration, because guess what? When you're a pawn on a chessboard, somebody else is making the moves. You're just put where you're placed.
Brother Jimmy, let me just interject and say this
rocks
to you.
up here.
How could someone,
the kids were pushed all the way back around here,
transportation that day and let them out of school early, and they had no way of getting home, didn't notify their parents,
just
and when
the alley
you
where
get
the
a
kids
group of young
pushed
people of that magnitude, if they don't have something
I don't see no rocks
to do, they're going to find something destructive to do.
And not only that, that's just organically, right? We're talking about teenagers who are naturally rebellious.
Ain't no rocks. Where the pebble, where the rocks at?
Atmosphere and the right environment. But when you apply pressure, now your normal routine is being disrupted. You walk every day across the mall, go to the transit station. Now you're being told for no good reason, no, you ain't coming here today.
I don't see no rocks.
What? Why? So now that's the part that is insightful. You are inciting something. You're instigating something when you take teenagers and disrupt their normal routine without any good reason.
Wow.
And furthermore, let's be clear about this. We're still trying to get confirmation. But if there was all this information, credible intelligence received that the students were going to do this, that, and the other, why wasn't there communication between the police department and the schools?
Why weren't they prepared?
Wow.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Schools Why wasn't the dismissal done in an orderly fashion, and maybe have the students escorted to the station to get them out of the area, as opposed to corralling them off and blocking the station? If you think something's going to happen, do you want a larger crowd that's harder to control, or do you want to expedite the crowd being able to make egress from the area?
Well, brother Jimmy, let's think about this, because I'm asking the same questions you asked. Remember the night of the baseball game, prior to everything really getting kicked up? Once the thing started at Pickles Pub and it started getting heated,
Pub.
They didn't let the people out of the stadium. They had them shelter in place for their safety, right? It had gotten cold and it was raining, but they had people stay in the stadium. Absolutely. So now move forward. At the funeral, they released this information that they had information about gangs. At Freddie Gray's funeral, the police tweeted out that they had information that gangs were going to unite to take police. That sounds like a threat. And all over the country, they're picking people up for threats on social media.
Right.
And yet they haven't gone after anybody, traced down the origin of this tweet.
What's going on?
They haven't traced down the origin of this tweet.
Can we keep it real? Listen, just about a half hour south of Baltimore is the headquarters of the NSA, okay? If we believe that these tweets and stuff came from criminal elements, it wouldn't be very hard to track down the actual
really
sources.
came from.
If we're to remain a mystery still, all this time later, a month and a half, we know what's really going on, because you must not be looking that hard.
Well, Jimmy, I have an ex-police officer getting ready to join us on the line, Ernest. Jimmy, maybe he has some expertise about what really happened. What you think? Ernest, you live with Jimmy the Bodyguard, along with Dr. Andre Humphrey and Mr. Christopher Urban. How you doing?
Hey, Jeff, hey, Larry, this is the other Ernest.
Oh, you the other Ernest, okay. Are you the bad guy and then you the good guy again, or how that works?
Well, I'm a little Ernest. But anyway, I just got the other Ernest, the police officer. Here's the thing. The whole idea of being locked up, I've been locked up here in Baltimore and Chicago. When you first get locked up, first thing on your mind is going to see the judge, to get bail, to call your family, to let them know that, hey, look, I'm locked up, and you get your paperwork on what you're being charged for. The thing is, I know about the so-called uprising and things of that nature, but the principle of this whole thing, the police violated Freddie Gray's rights. He didn't even get a chance to see the judge, the bail judge. I mean, he was in the wagon for 43 minutes, and this is the most disturbing part about guys that's being locked up right now, fighting that case right now, Larry. You know what I'm saying?
Brother Ernest, let me just jump in on you. First of all, if the gentleman, Freddie Gray's friend, would have never videoed it and got that information out, the police would have got away with murder.
Yeah, Mr. Kevin Moore.
You're right.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
So my point that I'm saying is this, is that a lot of focus is being focused on, okay, the CVS, the young students at Mondawmin Mall, but how did we get here? We got here by some of the officers violated his rights and have no accountability for it.
Well, we understand that, but also look what they're trying to do to State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. That's another radio, Brother Urban. That's another story of his own. We ain't even gonna touch that.
Look,
Jimmy will touch it.
Not on this show. We don't have
the time, Brother Jimmy.
What's going on?
Well, let's just concentrate on what really happened at Mondawmin Mall.
What happened? People were looting and stealing. What you mean?
What happened was that the first incident that the subway trains were cut.
Okay.
The kids couldn't get home. So if a kid can't get home from school, what they going to do?
Let me back you up.
And when the trucks, the SWAT team trucks, keep rolling around, pushing them in the streets, because they pushed us in the streets, and cars was coming down the street and almost got ran over by the cars.
But we still got to back up some more. How was this environment created? So like I said, they sent out a tweet saying that the gangs united, right? But then there was another thing after that when they said they put out this information that we're monitoring social media and we see that large groups are going to mass at Mondawmin Mall. right? Is that right, Jimmy?
Yes.
And then you cut off the transportation, the trains and the buses, and you let the kids out of school. Now, if you're so worried about what's going on, now remember, right, you kept the people in the baseball stadium, didn't you, for their own safety. You see what I'm saying? So you created an environment, and then you let them go in. Because remember, for a day or two prior, there were completely in control protests. That was not the first day.
Brother Jimmy, why were you laughing, Brother Jimmy?
Well, for so many reasons, but I'm going to just jump on the last part of what he said. The comparison. If you're going to keep grown adults, who paid money to be somewhere and told them they can't get out, how much more authority do you have over minors who you're in charge with their care and their safety? And to then say that we have credible information, this, that, and the other, and not take charge of the situation and say, you know what? Right now, parents, this is what's going on. We need you involved. You need to come here and pick up your child or whatever. Something more could have been done than what was done instead of just releasing them into the area where you corral them, push them into the traffic. We saw this with our own eyes. The riot cops were pushing them into active traffic. No one stopped the traffic. That agitated me. I know about 14 of them really pissed me off then too. This was incited.
But Brother Jimmy, you talking about pushing where the police officer invaded the young people's pool party and pulled his gun out, and they say he resigned. Maybe some police officers here that's heavy-handed, they might resign.
Not only that, Jimmy, go ahead.
Who was in command? That's what we need. Let's get to the root, man.
Now, what about when Little Black, when we was there recording, Little Black worked with Radio 1, and he had, they probably thought he was a kid because, Little Black is little. And, not to say it like that, but, he looked like a kid. He's young. Well,
he black.
And he about at least a good 50 police officers ran towards him and grabbed him, was huddling up.
And it's dragging him away.
It's all caught on tape. I recorded it and Jimmy recorded it. So we got two videos of what really happened.
Here's my thing. He's there, he worked, he's a producer at Radio 1 for crying out loud. He's there, a member of media, you, myself, Christopher Urban, Independent. Okay, whatever they thought was going on, he's there recording just like we were.
Right.
Why are you grabbing him and dragging him? What law was he violating anyways? Why did they even lay hands on this man? And let's say he was a student. What was he doing? Nothing. This is insightful. When you have officers laying hands on people who aren't breaking the law, who aren't violating the law, who aren't even remotely doing anything violent, this is insightful. I can show you count after count, but that's a good example. I intervened, placing myself and my safety in jeopardy, say, hey, man, let that man go. And I was forceful about it because I saw where it was going. It's much easier to stop it there than try to go bail somebody out later for some bogus charge.
But the end result is now we're talking about all of this stuff as opposed to what led up to this stuff.
Right.
And again, 2 days worth of marches and protests that had no problems,
eliminated.
And then all of a sudden you get an environment created to totally change the conversation.
Well, let's hear from the people out there.
Bring in the heavy-handed cops and troops and out of state and all of this.
Let's hear from the folks. 410-481-1010 if you're out the area. 1-877-704-1010. We also stream at www.olbbaltimore.com.
What you doing, man?
Let's go right to Charles, Jimmy, and then Leo and Marcus and your call.
There's a party over there tonight.
Well, 2 quick points. First, the students plan to on Facebook, social media.
The party over
plan
there
was for them to meet at Mondawmin
my cousin.
and to go downtown.
You called me the other
corralled
night.
them at Mondawmin. And so the students, their backup plan that if they couldn't get downtown, since they had been corralled by police at Mondawmin, their secondary plan was to attack CBS at North Avenue, where they weren't in the police presence. That was the point I wanted.